So let's discuss the next concept, list interface. So list is the sub interface of collection. If you see over here, so let me show you. List is the sub interface of collection. List will allow duplicate elements. So list will be allowing duplicate elements. List interface allows us to add the elements at the beginning, middle, and the end. Okay, let me come here. There it is for note. So what's the first point I said? List is the sub interface of collection. It is the sub interface of collection. Okay. List allow duplicate elements. List allow duplicate elements or objects, you can say. Okay. So if I am saying elements, so you can assume that these are the objects which I am talking about. Okay. So duplicate elements in the sense, for example, let's say if I said list dot add of 10, I can add this element 10 n number of times. I can add this element n number of times. Okay. So list is a sub-interface of collection. List allow duplicate elements. Okay. We can add the data using a list. Using list, we can add the data beginning, at the beginning, middle, even in the middle also we can add the data, middle, and at the end also we can add the data. At the end also we can add the data. So let's see how we can do that. So there is some kind of ready-made method support for that. Okay. So for example, let's say, let me take this collection. Let me take this entries. So let me add some more entries over here. Let's say 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. 60. Let's say these are the elements we have. Now, I want to add element 5 at the first index. I want to add element 5 at the first index. So, how I can do that? So, there is a method which will be taking the index number and the element as a parameter. So, I want to give the index number. I want to add the element at the first index. And I want to add an element called 5, sorry. Okay, so the 5 will be added at the top. List dot add of 1 comma 5 in the sense will be added 5 at the top. Okay, when you are saying add of 1 comma 5, so it will be adding the element 5 at the index number 1. Okay, if I say list dot add of 0 comma 2, so it will be adding element 2 at the index number 0, because the indexes will start from, in arrays you have learned, right? The indexes will start from 0th index, 0, 1, 2, 3, something like that. Okay, so you can add the element. So what I said, by using list you can add the element at the beginning, and if you want to add the element at the middle also, for example, I want to add the element, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, at position number 4th I want to add 15. Okay, I'll say list dot add of, I'll say 4, I'll say 15. The 15 will be added prior to this. Okay, so fine. So in middle we have added, right? Now at the end, if you want to add it, so you have to say this add of 70 at the end also, it will add it. So of course, right, whatever the element, it will be adding, whatever the data you are, inserting in the same order, it will be inserting the data. Okay. So up till 60, you have inserted the data. Now, if you say list.add of 70, next index, what is the after 60? So it will be storing the 70 value at the end only. So using list, we can add the data at the beginning, middle, and end also. We can add the data. Cool. Fine. So now let's discuss how the list is going to retrieve the data. So how the list is going to retrieve the data. List is used to retrieve the data in forward and backward direction. In forward and backward directions. In both directions, we can retrieve the data. Forward direction and in backward direction also we can retrieve it. We'll see this forward and backward what exactly. Just keep in mind, we can using the list, we can retrieve the data both in forward direction and backward direction. Okay, fine. Yeah, and yeah, it will be displaying the data in forward direction. And how it will be retrieving the data in forward direction, let's see how the list is going to display the data. Display list will be displaying the data based on the insertion order. Okay, how you have inserted the data in the same order only. Okay, it will be displaying the data. It will be displaying the data. Okay, so list will be displaying the data based on the insertion order. Based on the insertion order. Insertion order means how I have added the data. So this will come up because I have given 0. So it will be added first. So it will be 2, 5, 10, 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and 70. So in this way, I have added the data. In the same way only, it will be displaying the data. Okay. So let me recap it. What are the characteristics? What are the properties of a list? List is the subinterface of collection. It allows duplicate elements, which we have seen over here. Okay. Using list, we can add the data at the beginning, at the middle, or at the end also. And we have seen that one as well. Okay. And list, using the list, we can retrieve the data in forward and backward direction. Forward and backward direction, and it will be displaying the data based on the insertion order. How you have inserted the data in the same order only, it will be going to display the data. Okay, so now the question is when you have to use a list. The question is when you have to use a list. When to use list. So when to use a list? Let me tell you over here when to use a list. See, when to use a list. If you want to represent the data, or if you want to represent the data where duplicate objects are allowed and null insertion is possible and retrieving the data forward and backward direction and displaying the data in insertion order, you will be going to use the list. Okay, let me write it. If we want to represent the group of individual elements as a single entity where duplicates are allowed, right? Where duplicates are allowed and adding the data in beginning, middle, end, and retrieving the data in forward and backward direction will be using this list. Okay. So when you have to use list, if we want to represent a group of individual elements, okay, as a single entity, because in the single collection only, right, we will be storing all these elements where duplicates are allowed. Of course, list will be taking duplicates and we will be adding the data at the beginning, middle, at the end and retrieving the data in forward and backward direction. Then it's best choice to use a list. Okay. So let's see the next concept in the next video.